Welcome to the Home Centered Life podcast, where we seek to slow down, opt out of anxiety, and live an unhurried life. We're so glad you're here.
Journey alongside us as we learn about homesteading, homemaking, and living a more simple, home-centered life. Because we think the richest life possible is centered around the home.
Welcome back to the Home Centered Life podcast. We're so glad you're here, as always. And today I'm going to let Michael intro this episode. Michael's excited to talk about this. And today we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to talk about a quote, but more just as a jumping off point for this larger concept, which is...
How much is too much? So I came across this quote in a book. The book is called Minute of Margin for those who are interested. And the quote goes like this. When we insist on doing too much, we are not only inflicting the damage of this choice on ourselves, we are sharing this damage with those we love the most. And that's from Anne Schaaf. This quote reached up and grabbed me because it immediately has two elements to it. And it struck me because when I work with clients, a lot of them are doing too much. And by that, I mean they are at their limit or well beyond their limit. Mm-hmm. But there are people that I know, some who are clients, and it's not so much that they're at their personal limit, but they're operating in a way that's beyond their family's limit or their loved one's limit. And I think in general, we live in not just a marginless age, but it's not just marginless, but we are ecstatic. And as a culture, we praise people who have removed all the margin out of their life. I remember back in elementary school, back when paper and pencil were still a thing, they taught us to write on the paper and leave space on either side. Because if you eat up all that margin, it looks and feels overwhelming. It looks and feels crowded. Now, we not only have written as much as we possibly can in the margins, but when somebody does that with their life, we praise them for it. And for the most part, when I talk with folks, I generally draw their attention to where they're clearly going beyond their personal limits. But I liked this quote because it made me think of how often we go beyond the limits of those we love. And
can we just read that one more? Let's read it one more time. Yeah. So it was so good, and I just need to soak in it for a second.
When we insist on doing too much, we are not only inflicting the damage of this choice on ourselves, we are sharing this damage with those we love the most.
Yeah. Speaking of creating margin, I'm just creating margin around this quote right now to let it sink in. Yeah. So we want to peel back for a second. We jumped right in, but the reason we're bringing this up is not just to talk about a quote. It's to talk about this greater idea of when we push too hard, oftentimes we're not loving ourselves well, but also the people around us. And really that's the bottom line. And so I think we've learned kind of what our mutual limits are. And we're pretty good now at figuring those out and honoring each other's limits. And we always say I feel like in a beautiful way, God has given us less capacity than some people, and our capacity is growing and it grows throughout our lives. But in some ways, I feel like you and I see that as a gift, because actually in the Emotionally Healthy Church, Pete Scazzero says there's a whole chapter on the gift of limits. And it's often, I think I struggled for so many years thinking what's wrong with me that I can't do more? And it was so often what's wrong versus oh, maybe this was an intentional way that I was wired so that I have more space and time to dream and hopefully love people well when I'm not going 1,000 miles an hour and create space for beauty. And not that you can't do that if you have a higher limit, but I think it's harder because you're just going so fast all the time. And we were actually just talking about that last night with someone we know that just goes so hard. And we chose to live very differently. But I was again reminded of that phrase, and we can't remember where it came from. But if the devil can't make you sin, he'll make you busy.
Yeah,
and that's just like mic drop right there, right? Yeah, because we're all so busy, and the busyness I think is tearing us apart. So. And we don't want to get super heavy here, but again, this idea of like, how do we love people well? We do it by slowing down and creating space for ourselves and for others, right? I think that's the bottom line.
Yeah. One of the things I love about this quote is it doesn't actually specify what is too much, because I think too much is relative.
Totally.
What you were saying about our limits, I think, and I've had people push back when I say this, and I get why they're pushing back, but I think they misunderstand, or I don't say it well enough. But when I say I feel like I have less capacity than a lot of people. I told that to one person. They were like, "Oh, that's a limiting belief." I was like, "That's not what I mean. I mean, I go out and I get tired first. I go to a concert and I get overwhelmed first. I go work and I'm the first person to be like, ugh, I need a break. Whereas some people seem to be able to go and it doesn't faze them. I feel like I hit my limit first. That's all I mean.
Yeah.
And my limits are growing and they're expanding. So what is too much for me is going to be different than what's too much for somebody else. The point is we all have a limit. And I think that's one piece of this that's so important. We all have a limit. There's literally nothing ever that doesn't have a limit. And furthermore, there's literally nothing ever that exists without space between its limit and where it tends to be.
Yeah.
The analogy I always use with my clients is like you drive over a bridge and there's a big sign that says weight limit. That's not the actual limit though. That's the safety so that there's space in between its actual limit. Because if the weight posted was its actual limit, a truck that's 1 pound over that would crush it. The whole thing would collapse.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's nothing that doesn't have margin that exists. We are pretty much the only thing in existence that tries to eliminate that, and we always pay the price. But too much is going to be relative, but everybody has a limit.
Yeah.
And it's a gift. It's not a limiting belief. Yeah. It's embracing the gift of limits is a beautiful thing. And the more we've embraced it, I think the more our capacity has expanded.
I think so too, for sure.
Which is counterintuitive, but that's been our experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's cool as a couple and as a family to try and honor one another's limits, because I think it's just a virtuous cycle. Like when we do that, it just creates more and more space to learn and grow and rest. And I think they're all helping one another. They're learning, the growing and the resting helps us to then love better and live better and show up better for one another when we're doing that. And I think if you're hearing this and you're saying, okay, well, I don't even know what my limit is, or let alone my spouse's, that's okay. That's a great place to start, is beginning to notice when you're so overwhelmed, all you want to do is watch Netflix every single night, or you're so tired,
which we sometimes do.
oh yeah, or you're so tired that you can't even think straight, and you just want to lay in bed all day. Like these are little signs that maybe you are already past your limit, and then you can take maybe a half step back and try, going to bed a half hour earlier, doing one less thing throughout the day. And, again, I think part of the conversation is, okay, I want to do this with my family, but I don't know where to start. I think the starting point is learning our own limits, right? And honoring them as individuals, because then we know like what our baseline is. And then we can, again, begin to create that space for the people in our lives. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that makes me so sad in the world today, is when I feel like I just watch people going so fast that they forget that the people around them are people. I feel like that's where this like fires me up, because I'm like, if we're able to do this more often for ourselves, then we get to do it for others. And that's the whole point. Yeah. Like I think it was last week I was getting the car washed, and there was a miscommunication. I wasn't supposed to go in the car wash because there was a cone, but I didn't understand anyway. And this guy that was working there was just like so rude and so unkind. And I almost started to cry, not because he was hurting my feelings, but because he forgot that I'm a person too. Yeah. And I think that's, again, this whole bottom line, the whole point of this idea is like, don't we want to love each other better? I don't know. I just think that like that's the end goal. And so when we're able to create more space in the world, in our own little worlds, in our own homes, in our own, whether we're single or married and with 12 kids, like creating more space in our own little world. So then we go out into the world and there's more space for the people around us. I know. Dramatic sigh.
I think loving people well and living within our limits go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I don't think I tend to get really annoyed at the whole good versus evil narrative. I think is way overplayed. I'm not saying there's not bad people. I just don't think most of the people are bad people. I think they're busy people. They don't have time to create space or respond graciously or energy to think like, oh, that's a human inside that car. Instead, we honk our horn or we speed up or we tailgate people. And I think a lot of what we see is more just evidence of lack of margin and living way beyond our limit.
Yeah.
But there's no realm of life where going beyond your limit is sustainable. You go to the gym and you try to lift heavier than you can lift. You don't do it. You try and you maybe get one rep in and then you pull something and you're out. You financially, you try to spend more dollars than you actually have. It never goes well to go beyond your limits. I was talking with one person about their business and they kept saying like, oh, I need to like use every available minute. And I was like, think about that in the context of driving. When you're on the freeway, are you right up on the bumper of the person in front of you because you need to use every available inch? No.
Yeah.
You're several car lengths back. Why? Are you wasting that space? No.
Yeah.
That's the space that's necessary to get safely to where you're trying to go.
Yeah. I like
Otherwise, if that person barely taps on the brakes, you're going to crash into them. And I get a little bit, I understand, but I also get frustrated when people say like, oh, it's easy for you guys to say, or, oh, wouldn't that be nice? Like, you don't understand. Like, that's like saying, oh, wouldn't it be nice to leave several car lengths in front of me? But I just don't have time for that. I'm in too much of a hurry. you're going to crash then, and you're not going to get where you're trying to go if that's how you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
These things that we're talking about have natural consequences. It's just not a like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have more like space or to do less? What we're talking about is if you're right up on the car that's in front of you, eventually you're going to crash, and then you're not going to get where you're going.
Yeah.
And neither are they.
Right.
Again, your decision to push beyond, it affects other people. And I think a lot of times folks won't do something for themselves, but they'll do it because they realize it has an effect on other people. And here's, sometimes it's helpful for me to remind myself that it's not just about me. I'm all for doing something if like, hey, cycle back because you're doing too much for yourself, but also pull back because you might be doing too much just for the people around you.
Yeah.
How many people do we know who one spouse is hard charging, go, go, go. But the other spouse is having a nervous breakdown because it's too much. Or they have, all sorts of illnesses or autoimmune diseases brought about by just exhaustion. That's a lot more common. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I'm doing fine as far as my limits go, maybe that's great. But look at your family, look at your loved ones.
Yeah.
And see, just try to take stock of the effect it's having on them.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about you.
I like that, what you said too, that it's not wasted space, and I think that's again what culture tells us. Like if we do nothing, or if we're bored, or if we rest, it's a waste. But I think the other thing to think about is like the long-term effects of this. Like even if right now you're okay pushing hard, like eventually, kind of like you said, eventually you're going to crash. Your body is going to give in. Your relationships are going to break down because you're not creating space to connect with people. I mean, that's where it makes me sad. Like, is like maybe right now it's okay, but down the road it's probably not going to be okay. And I think especially like when you're a young family with little kids, people always say like, "Oh, life is so busy," and I like to say, life is full, because I think we've chosen to not make it busy. We intentionally. I know our kids are still little, but we're not planning on doing like extracurricular activities and plan to homeschool. I mean, we're going to integrate activities into homeschooling, but not do the like we're out every night and miss dinner as a family, because I think the long-term effects of that are going to be really bad, And I think I just like to like clarify, like life is full when you have 2 kids under 2, or, however, 5 kids or however many kids, it can feel busy, but I like to clarify that we've chosen it to live a full life, but not a busy life.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference.
Yeah. And the small intentional decisions add up. I was just remembering one conversation I had with somebody, and they also have 2 kids, but they're further along. So they were talking about their experience being parents and their kids go to public school and what it's like in today's day and age. And he literally said, keeping up with the way they do school now is a part-time job. It's like, just for the sake of the illustration, a part-time job would be 20 to 30 hours a week. So and again, it's like, I went to public school, so I'm not like demonizing public school, but here's an inflection point where it's like, do your kids have to go to public school?
Yeah.
No, they do not.
Yeah.
Is there any research that proves that's a better education? No, there is not.
Yeah.
So, but you have a choice, is my point.
Yeah.
And here you have a choice.
Yep.
And one path will lead you down towards busyness.
Yeah.
And the other path, not so much.
Right. Right.
Now you could still do homeschool and still be super busy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's not, none of these things are magic, but you start making decisions like these small decisions.
Yeah. They add up.
And they add up really fast.
Totally.
Another example is deciding to quit being an employee and go to owning my own business. A lot of people make that choice and they work way more. But when we made that decision, we also made the decision that I wasn't going to work more than 5 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then after our son came along, we got 2 kids, and I realized for us, 5 is too much. And so now it's more like 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I just don't work at all, like today.
Yeah.
And that's not every day, but I can see the difference. I can see what happens when it's too much for us.
Yeah.
And whatever that is for anybody. But looking at the signs and thinking, like, am I seeing signs that we're doing too much?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's hard. This is really hard I think this was even a hard conversation for me to have 5 years ago, that conversation around choice. That's a hard thing because some people feel like with whatever they've experienced in their life that they don't have a choice. But I think like when we are able to take a step back and see that like we've been innately wired to, I guess I want to honor wherever someone is at and feeling like, wow, again, that's easy for you to say, or I don't feel like I have a choice. And I totally get that because I've been there before. But even the tiniest choices, they are up to you. And maybe the big choices feel like you don't have power over them yet, but like start with the smallest choices in your life. Like, what flavor of kombucha do you want to have? And like start with that. And then you're like, oh, sweet, I want strawberry. Okay, cool. So I just made that choice and I felt great. And then you work your way up to making these bigger choices. I know that's a silly example, but like sometimes for people like that have had trauma or they're in that cycle of like helplessness, it can feel like I can't make these big decisions to like quit my job and start my business or do homeschooling. And I totally get that. I was there, but like start with the small things. And I know it takes time, but there's choice in the little decisions. And then, eventually it'll trickle down to these bigger decisions and, choosing to live a different kind of life. And like, I feel like eventually like culture is going to catch up and people are just going to realize we're so exhausted, and I think right now where everyone is pretending that they're busy and that it's okay.
Yeah.
But I think eventually it's going to catch up with people. And so like, what if you just decide right now, you listening, like I'm going to take a step off the crazy train and I'm going to go a different way.
Yeah.
Like I would much rather be on a different path than a train that's about to crash. So yeah. So these are things to think about for sure. I know we're not giving necessarily specific answers, but more ideas to think about and ponder as a family and as a single person, as a couple. Like, how do we want to live our lives?
Yeah.
What do we want to create space for in our life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one sort of final observation just to draw folks' attention to it, because I think this is happening and I don't hear anybody talking about that this is happening. There's so many amazing things about the world we live in. The fact that we can even have a podcast sitting in our home like this and talking about it is amazing and would not have been possible not that long ago.
Yeah.
But the world is hyper-connected, which means we can follow people on social media who have a capacity that is way beyond our capacity.
Yeah, totally.
Or they have a capacity that's, let's just say it's equal to our capacity, but they're a husband and wife, like power couple with no kids, and they want to work 12 hours a day. And then here's us, where we don't want that. Yeah. And we have kids and we want more kids. And right there's going to be a difference. Yeah. What I'm going at is I often wonder if the go is because there's a couple people who actually can. Yeah. And they're really loud on social media. And everybody else is like, oh, I don't know. Shoot. I guess that's what we're supposed to do now because they're worth 100 million or whatever. Yeah. So if I want to be worth anything, I got to copy them. And I just think that's a giant mistake. Yeah. To look at somebody else and say like, oh, it works for them, so it must work for me. Yeah. Not if they're working 12 hours a day. Yeah. that's probably not healthy for you. They are probably like a small fraction of the population.
Yeah, for
Everybody
sure.
else, the normal mere mortals, are probably going to need to find their own balance, their own limit, and not necessarily try to copy and paste that person's crazy 12-hour day onto their own life. So that's why I like this quote so much, because it just says too much. It doesn't say 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day. It doesn't specify. It's just like, I don't know what's too much for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
For them, it's maybe not too much, but for me, it would be way too much.
Yeah.
And so it's a personal decision, but at the end of the day, it's your life.
Yeah.
And you have to decide what version of it is best for you.
Yeah. That's good. I like that. Well, yeah, hopefully this was encouraging to all of you out there. And we'd love to hear your feedback and thoughts, because we're, again, still trying to figure this out. We're not experts in this arena by any means, but we more just wanted to bring this idea to the forefront, because the more we can create awareness around these kinds of things, I think the more we can together on this journey create more space for the beauty and for the lives that we feel like we've been called to live.
Thanks so much for joining us today for our conversation around how much is too much.
We hope you found it both helpful and encouraging. And if you like this episode, we would love it if you'd subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's a great zero-cost way to support this podcast.
You can also find us on Apple and Spotify and leave us up to a 5-star review. One of the amazing things about the world we live in today is that you can help us live a home-centered life just by subscribing and giving us a review on Apple and Spotify.
We look forward to connecting with you again soon, and thank you so much for being on this journey as we seek to live a more home-centered life.